Alright, we're going to use Excel here to do some computing of group data. It can be done on the TI calculator as well, but probably pretty tedious. And here we can always have our Excel document and save it for future updates. So what I'm going to do actually is do the mean standard deviation for both the sample and population of the group data, so we have it all in one item. So for all of these, once you get it made, you just insert the information. So question 1 asks something about a mean, question 2 asks all of it, question 3 asks about a sample versus population, or a population versus a sample, excuse me. But anyway, this one says that they want the mean, and this is a random sample. So we're going to be doing a sample. Grab the data, right? And then copy it and paste it, paste it in here to Excel. So my document here has a little bit more than what you're going to put. I have it all set up so that we can start computing it with all the, you know, correct symbols and things so you know exactly what it is when you're looking at it. Versus yours, you might just have some headers. You don't have to put all these symbols in here, and I'll have it formatted all nicely. But let's do this now. These are the items that we want, population mean and sample mean. If you look at those, you can see that they're exactly the same. Pretty nice. That makes that easy. And then population standard deviation and sample standard deviation, basically the same calculation except when we divide here, we divide by one less, kind of the degrees of freedom kind of similar to before. So we just have mean, the mean means both of them, and then population standard deviation and sample standard deviation. All right, let's start here. Midpoint. We need to find the midpoint of the values. So the midpoint, remember, goes from the lower class here to the lower class here, from 0 to 500. So basically, we can find that by typing it in, or we can actually, find the average of putting it in. It's a little bit harder to make it pick out those values. So I'm going to type in the average and give it like two numbers, and I'll have to update them, 0 and 500. Now if I reuse this information, I have to make sure to update this position here. Because if I don't update the code, then it's going to be using 0 and 500 as the average here, but we don't want that. That's obviously not the midpoint of something else, right? So remember to update that data or find a way to get these two pieces of information. You can do it, just takes a lot longer. All right, then what we need to do is just, I'm going to just, rather than do it for all and just drag it down, I'm going to say for it to add the class width to this, because the class width will then just put the next midpoint right in the middle of that. And the class width is 500. So over here, I'm just going to make another little box that says class width, and I put this in there to be 500. Okay, so the class width is 500. Now I can refer to it and say, take this box here and add 500 to it. And we want to keep it pointing to that, so I need to put a $sign in this area right here. All right. Then I just grab it and pull it down, and you'll be able to see that it keeps all that information right in there. Okay. So that's the midpoint between there, between there, between there. So find the midpoint of the first, and then just do the class width and add it on. Okay, now we're going to be doing exactly what these things say so we can get everything else done. This is multiplication of xi times fi, the frequency. So basically I just have to multiply those two together, equals this one times this one. And then we want them all to just, move, so I pull it down. And that makes them all move down by one. It took these two and multiplied, etc. All right, continuing on, now we want this value minus the mean. Well, it looks like we need to find the mean. So let's look at the mean. It's the sum of the xi fi. So it's the sum of this product divided by the sum of this. Okay, so I'll scroll down there. I have that all set up ready. Just got to type in the information. So the sum of all of these. Okay, there it is. And then the sum of all of this. So equals the sum of all of this right here. And now we can get the mean, because again, the mean was just this one divided by this one, right? So up to here to mean, it equals this box divided by this box over there, enter. So there is our mean. Now when we come back to here to do the difference squared, it's the xi minus the mean and then quantity squared, so no problem, equals this one minus the mean, parentheses around it, all right, and then square it. But we also want to keep it pointing this green box to the mean, so I'm going to have to put a $sign in there. There we go. So it took this one, subtracted the mean, and then squared it. The difference squared, all right? And then we can just basically drag that corner down. And there's that one. Now this one is the difference squared times the frequency, the Fi. So we have all that, so let's do that. Now we have this one here times the frequency. And again, we can just leave them pointing. We don't need any $signs because we're going to drag it down so that each of these multiply each other. And then down here, we have a sum box again. We need to add them up. Why do we need to add these guys up here? Because that's for the standard deviation. If you look over here, we have a standard deviation that we have to sum them up. So I had it already set out, but we'd find pretty fast that we're going to have to sum them up. So now we've completed this entire diagram, and now we want to find the standard deviation of the population and sample standard deviation. They're going to be different. The means are the same, but these two values are going to be different. So the population is the sum divided by the frequency. So this product here, the sum of that divided by the frequency, then take the square root. Okay? So let's do that one first. Population equals, so we have to do square root first because it's going to be the square root of, now this cell, which is down here, divided by the sum of the frequencies, which is back over here. And then that's it. The square root of that one divided by that one. Hit enter. Then we go to the sample standard deviation. It's the same thing. The square root of the sum of the products here divided by, now we're dividing by not just the frequency, but the frequency minus 1. And since it's in the entire denominator, we want to put this entire denominator in a new set of parentheses. Parentheses, frequency minus 1, end the parentheses for the denominator, end the parentheses for the square root. And there is our sample standard deviation. So very close, but they are different. All right, so that was quite a bit of work to get set up, but now that this is completely set up, if we ever get new data and we just need to find the mean, we paste it in there. We paste it in there and we switch over the midpoint. We have to figure out the midpoint. It's the only thing we need to do here. And once the midpoint's figured out, all this data will update and the entire thing will update. The class width is another thing we need to do. So mean and class width. So what I like to do with things that I have to enter is change them to red. And so that way I remember that I have to change them before I start. So these guys have to be updated before I start. All right, and then like for the next question now in the homework, if you just need the population standard deviation, you pick it out. You don't got to do anything different. Just paste in the information, change these two values, but maybe you need the sample standard deviation. Just pick it right out of there. You don't have to do any other work now. All this is done for you, and you just paste it in. Hopefully that helps you. If you have any questions, please let me know.